Coming to you from North Atlanta studios and brought to you by Mesmerize Media. It's the Advantage of Adversity podcast. And now, here's your host, Glenn Carver.
Hello, this is Glenn Carver, the host of the Advantage of Adversity podcast, coming to you from the podcast studio at Mesmerize Media in North Atlanta. And got an absolutely wonderful guest for you today, a gentleman, a dear friend named Bob Kilinski. And Bob is the co-owner of the Keller Williams Southeast region. And the Southeast region is actually the number one region in all of Keller Williams. And when I say number one, I mean number one in offices, in revenue, and most importantly, profitability. So we're gonna dig deep today on some of Bob's challenges and adversity and lessons along the trail of life and business. And welcome to the show, Bob. Fantastic to have you on
Glenn,
the Advantage of Adversity, my friend.
My pleasure. Adversity, when you say adversity, I'm thinking, okay, it doesn't feel like I'm in an adverse environment, but I passed through them.
You did. And
yes.
that passing through adversity is the core of the show. So I'm glad you said that. Perfect.
We didn't even script this.
We didn't even script this. But before we dive in, Bob, I want to publicly thank you again, because you've been more than a friend to me. You've been what I call a foxhole buddy. And, in the darkest days of my life, when I was in that ICU in a coma for 3 weeks after my emergency colon surgery, two of my dear friends, Sean and Wendy Cartmill, put up a GoFundMe because it was very questionable what was going to happen to me and my family. And you were very kind, and you were one of the early donators to the GoFundMe to get my family through that dark space. And I just want to publicly thank you for that.
You're more than welcome. God has blessed me. So he said to me, you got it, pass it on.
Oh, so thank you. So I really just want to let you know how much you mean to me, and it's an honor to be in your life and be in your universe.
Well, I want to tell you something. I'm not going to say I'm this big philanthropist, because I'm not. God has allowed me to have funding for a great lifestyle, but every once in a while, a message comes through.
Yeah.
Excuse me, folks. I'm just get a little emotional on this one. And somehow your name kept coming up.
Wow.
Just that simple.
Wow.
It's not like I chose you.
Wow.
I probably would have.
Well,
but he did first.
Wow.
So there, you're welcome.
Thank you, brother.
He's probably saying you're welcome.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. And I know that God spared my life in that ICU.
Absolutely,
no positively
You're
know
supposed
that.
to probably doing this to help other people.
Yes.
Okay.
There's no question. There's
Right.
no question in my heart and my mind. So, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't expecting this out of the gate, but thank you. So thank you for being who you are.
Well, thank you.
So we'll lighten up a tad.
Oh yeah. Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah. So let's go back to the beginning. You're from Louisiana, which I love Louisiana. As you say, you're a Polish guy from Louisiana. So just give us a touch about your background and where you came from.
Well, New Orleans is my home base. My dad came from Poland. My mom came from Tennessee. They both ended up in New Orleans for different reasons, and got married.
Wow.
And 4 years later, in 1942, I was born, as we were in the throes of World War II. And of course, I'm playing with toys and have no idea what's going on.
Sure, of course.
So a lot of people say, you're a baby boomer. I said, no, I'm actually a pre-baby boomer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
But so I hang with the baby boomers.
Yes.
Just for identity.
Yes.
Grew up in an apartment, and I didn't know any difference, except when I got to be about 5 or 6 years old, I realized that all my friends lived in these things called houses, and we lived in this apartment building. And I was trying to figure out why we were different. And it didn't dawn on me until I was about 8 years old that if I wanted something, I had to go to work for it.
Mm.
My mom and dad worked hard, but they only had money to pay what the total essentials were.
Right.
And so at an early age, I learned that if you want to do it, you got to get it done yourself. And it wasn't this bright, big lesson. It was just the fact that it happened that way. You look back and say, that's what happened.
Yes.
So I've been working since I was 8 years old, selling tickets, for the school fair.
Sure.
Was my first job.
Oh, absolutely. That's great.
And then, rent a kid. I'll wash your car. I'll walk your dog.
Okay.
I'll do it. You do what you do. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Worked every summer, that type of thing. But I grew up a happy kid. I mean, I really did. My mom and dad were fabulous. They didn't have much to give physically, but they gave the intangibles, which I think shows up later in life of what you are made of because of where you came from.
Well, that's fantastic.
Right.
You,
Went to public school,
Okay.
around the neighborhood when they had public schools around the neighborhood.
Sure.
Okay. Didn't play sports, wasn't qualified, wasn't strong enough. So I went
that
into,
surprises me. Looking at you now.
play tennis now, but
Yes.
back then it was no football. I did run track, and I'll tell you why. I was a skinny kid,
Okay.
and I learned that if you stayed, you get the beat out of you. So you learn to run.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned to run.
Run, Forrest, run.
That'll turn that to a track career in high school.
Right.
Right. So, but I got to be in politics, and God blessed me with a fairly good brain and a way of studying. So I made good grades in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and senior class president, debate team,
Wow.
military, all the things. They weren't what the girls went after because they went after the sports characters.
Sure.
So I had to work at that part.
Sure.
I was able to graduate with high grades, got a scholarship to Tulane University in electrical engineering.
Wow.
Yeah, I look back.
You're a smart guy.
After 50 years of being a realtor, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Right.
So
I went there because that's how I could get a scholarship.
Okay.
And that's the only way I could get into college. I couldn't go out of town. I had to live at home, which I did. Then when I graduated electrical engineering by the skin of my teeth, because it wasn't my profession,
mm-hmm.
I walked across the campus and got an MBA in management and finance on a scholarship.
Wow.
Okay. And then went to work for IBM, and then spent 2 years in the service.
What a seemingly dream scenario that's evolving.
Well, it might be a dream scenario if you're looking at it on paper. I'm not so sure it was a dream scenario if you're living, because I wanted to go away to college, and I wanted to live in the fraternity house, and I wanted to be one of the cool kids.
Yeah.
But I couldn't afford the time or the money.
Okay.
So I had to venture out in other things. So it was production of grades, being recognized in the military, ROTC type stuff. And then, going to fraternity parties when I had the off night, but I'd travel from home, which was 8 blocks away, to the fraternity house on campus. And I had fun then. And that's where I met my first wife. And I say first wife because she died of cancer in 97.
Correct.
We were married in 68, 3 great kids. So we went to the Army. I got reassigned to the Pentagon. Here I am, a first lieutenant.
Wow.
Fresh out of RTC, went to school. I went to officer school, and I got a call, and I'm thinking I'm headed for Vietnam. Got to be killed, be done. It's over.
Ugh.
I got a call that I thought was a prank call and said, Kilinski, this is Colonel so-and-so, and you're reporting to the Pentagon 3 days from now. So your orders have been changed. We'll see you Monday. And I looked up, I said,
ooh,
somebody's pranking me here.
Right.
Come to find out,
Somebody's
it was true.
me.
It was true. So I got to the Pentagon, spent 2 years.
That's a good curveball.
Yeah. And they say, thank you for your service. It's embarrassing because I wore the uniform. I didn't serve like many of my friends did, actually in battle. So it's kind of a fun story, but it's also a little bit of a, you didn't play in the big leagues.
Yeah.
Okay. Got out of Pentagon.
Not that you wouldn't have, but that was the calling.
If they said I had to do it, I'm sure I would have done it. Wouldn't have liked it. Probably wouldn't have survived it. Yeah. So God had other things planned for me.
Absolutely. We know
so
about
I
that.
got back to New Orleans, married at this time, and I went back to work for IBM.
Wow.
Then IBM had changed while I was away. It turned corporate morphized, as a lot of people know corporations do. Didn't feel like the same place. I didn't play politics well. I could do my job well, but that didn't seem to always matter.
Right.
So I said, okay, I'm going to find another job. I went to a consulting company that dealt with computing. Okay. And today I don't compute anything, but back then I was a guru in a niche.
Right.
And worked with a small consulting company that worked with some pretty big companies in the Southeast. And that company went out of business. So 3 amigos, me and 2 of my friends, formed our own consulting company, tried to keep some of the clients. And at age 30, with a child that's 9 months old, with a wife who had been teaching who quit, in an apartment we were living, we had no income.
I think that's called, my friend calls that standing in the heat.
Yeah, well, whatever you want to call it. All I know was by age 30, I'd imagine I'd be vice president of some major corporation.
Right.
Because I was supposed to be,
Sure.
because I had got the MBA and worked
Sure,
at
it
the
was all laid
Pentagon.
out.
It was all laid out. Okay. Except no, I'm in an apartment in Jefferson, Louisiana, which is a suburb of New Orleans, with a wife and kid, and none of us are making money. And I said, I've got to change careers. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Right.
So I did think about this, and I had learned this back when, but it was in the back of my head. If you're going to get in a profession and you want to become wealthy, get in a profession that you can use for your own wealth building.
Yes.
And there only were two that I could think of: stockbroker or real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
One had to do with investments and one had to do with real estate investments.
Yes.
So I went looking for a real estate or banking job or something that got in the housing industry. And fortunately, I met another young man who was trying to start a company, who was a real salesman, and I was the business type guy.
Right.
So we formed an alliance and formed a brokership. He became the broker. I became the sales manager, but really was the education manager of teaching business to realtors.
And you're great at that.
That was 1972.
Wow.
And I was a total fish out of water.
Sure.
Okay. I mean, it was a total different industry. IBM and the Pentagon's all strike troopers. You went to the real estate office, it was like, who are these people?
Right.
Nice as they could be, but you talk about unstructured.
Just opposite ends of the continuum.
Totally opposite. But I got placed there. And so there I was. Well, we were very successful. Over the next couple of years, we built the company up to where we could sell it. And during that time, I also accumulated personal real estate, which I think was the trick. You work during the day to serve other clients. You work nights and weekends to serve you, the client.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's real good.
So I accumulated a lot of investment property during that time because the market was correct and the mortgages were okay. And I built a building company. So I did flips, holds, bills, and brokerage.
Yes. All the while building equity for Bob.
All the way building
Kilinski.
equity. So from 30 to about 38, it was like a meteoric rise.
Wow.
And I was so smart that Chuck and I sold the real estate company to Coldwell Banker in 1979, just as the interest rates were getting ready to go through the market.
Yes.
And we were so smart and we had done so well that we figured we would buy a restaurant franchise in New Orleans that was making money in every other city hand over fist.
Oh gosh.
So I learned one thing. Everybody has to eat, but they don't have to eat with you.
That's right. Oh, harsh lesson.
Yeah.
There's some adversity in that lesson.
4 months we went to the bank every night with bags of cash.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just incredible. I thought I was going to retire at age 40. And by the 4th month, the bags of cash got to be very slim and none. And by the 5th month, we stopped going to the bank.
So what happened?
People stopped coming.
Why?
Because you don't build an Ohio franchise restaurant in New Orleans, the food capital of the world.
Okay.
Lesson learned. People would go down the street to McDonald's and spend $5, but wouldn't come to our place to spend $3 for all you could eat. And we did a survey. It was so funny. He says, I'm not coming here because I'm not that hungry. I said, well, you don't have to be hungry. You went to McDonald's for $5. You could have come here for $3. Yeah, but at McDonald's, I only get so much for $5, and that's what I can eat.
Unbelievable.
So I didn't know the mentality of the consumer, nor did I know how to cook and run the kitchen. So I bit off something that I shouldn't have, and boy, did I tank. Went down the tube for about $4 million.
Ooh, at 38 years old.
That was
40.
That was at third. Well, about to say 40 when when it really tanked. By the time I had 3 kids, Steve, Ken, Anna, and Anna had just been born. So Steve was about 7 or 8 years old. And we had bought a house, but a modest house, but it had just crashed.
Oh.
And I will never forget the night the bank called. It was on a Friday night at 8:00. And we knew our banker. He says, Bob, I'm giving you a call on Friday night because Monday you're going to get a call from the committee chairman. We are repossessing your home.
Oh my God.
I'm thinking, what are we going to do?
Oh my God.
So, I made contingencies to move back to an apartment, but fortunately we worked it out. We worked it out. It worked out over time.
You were not on the street with your family.
I was packed. but
Yeah.
I wasn't on the street. I mean, it's scary times.
Sure.
You know, you got
I
to
get it.
40 years old. You
Ooh.
think you really are smart. You find out that you've stepped into a very deep hole and you brought all your loved ones with you that had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
So
that's adversity, my
yeah,
friend.
it was totally adversity.
Yeah, it feels like you
for the second time.
Yeah, second time, but there's
Right.
more to come, right? So
Yeah.
it feels like, you went to Vegas, you made all this money, you think you're done,
I came home
and then you make a decision, you give it all back.
plus some.
Oh.
Because you have it, you can borrow against it. It's called leverage. It's
Yes.
a great concept. Learned in MBA school.
Yes.
You do leverage. But it's like going to a bar and being overserved. It's good the first 2 drinks.
Yeah.
It's not good the next 3.
Right.
And then you try and drive home.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
No.
I think it's called marginal utility.
Right.
Oh.
Diminishing returns.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
literally.
So anyway, I went back into the real estate business.
Okay.
Went to work for one of the larger firms in New Orleans, Gertrude Gardner Realtors, which basically saved my life at that time.
Okay.
Got back into what I knew, kept the building company, okay, but lost all the other stuff and started rebuilding. Put my kids through school and living a life of a family man and all that type of stuff, trying to make a name back for myself in the real estate industry. Bottom line, stayed there 18 years.
Wow.
In the 18
At that company.
Okay. I went from
That's a good run.
went from sales manager to general manager in the 18 years. So I got a lot of experience, and it gave me, I'd had experience in real estate business, but that gave me a different level of experience. So now I have 25 years under my belt in the real estate industry, and I'm age 55.
Mm-hmm.
And my first 2 kids have already gone to college. They're gone. Roll Tide. They went to Alabama.
Okay.
And they got to go away to school of one thing that I always wanted to do. So I was so happy to see they could do this. So as my daughter's going into her senior year of high school in New Orleans, her mother, my wife, Belle, got diagnosed with terminal cancer.
What type?
It was leiomyosarcoma,
Okay.
uterine cancer,
Okay.
fibroid tumor that went the bad way.
Mm.
And I'm sure all the women out there know what that means.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Guys, pay attention. Have your wife checked often.
Okay.
Okay.
PSA right there.
Right there. Have it checked. Whatever it is for women, it's PSA for men, but have it checked.
Yes.
Okay. So, when I was 55 in 1997, my last child had just gone to college. I had been fired by my broker at Gertrude Gardner.
Okay.
He rehired me. Well, we had a power struggle.
Okay.
Okay. It was political.
Sure.
He rehired me because the agents rallied around me, and I thanked them for that. They said, unless he did one of these 3 major things, you fire him and we're walking.
Ooh. So good for you.
I got hired.
You had your union.
I had my
Bob union.
I had a fan club.
Yes.
And I got rehired, but under very stringent circumstances. And by that time, my heart was ripped out because I'd given my heart and soul to the company.
Yeah, sure.
And it didn't feel good. So I mentally said, if Belle makes it, we'll figure out something to do. If she doesn't make it, I will figure out something to do. But I wasn't going to stay there.
Yeah.
But I had to, for psychological insurance and all the normal reasons, when you have somebody, as you well know, in the cancer trench.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So unfortunately, she died in 97, but I've been talking to Keller Williams a couple of months before that. And I was really sitting around saying, Bob, what are you going to do with your life at 55? Your kids are gone. So you're an empty nester and a widower.
Mm.
And you really don't have a career path. You have a career cul-de-sac.
Okay.
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 What do you do with it?
Great.
So I said, okay,
I own that one now. Thank you.
You got it. I stole it too. I didn't have a whole bunch of money, but I had some survival money, and I will give Aflac a shout out because it was the Aflac policy that paid me based on Belle's death to be able to fund the Keller Williams startup funding. It was my own GoFundMe from Aflac.
What a great testimonial. It's a phenomenal organization.
So quack. Okay?
Yes, absolutely. And I've got some very good friends who are way up in that organization. So I'm glad to hear that.
I did it because I bought it from a friend. I didn't really buy it because I thought I needed it.
Yeah.
And boy,
Wow.
It was my lifesaver.
Woo.
So thank you, Aflac. At any
Fantastic.
rate, I'd been talking to Keller Williams a little bit, and I said, this is going to be a different opportunity. It's a ground floor opportunity. I've already worked for people. I've already lost money in a venture that I did not know, but this is something I did know. It was in the real estate brokerage industry, but it was a different way of doing it. And it was the way I thought I would do it if I were not working for somebody else.
Right.
Not quite, but it was sort of, similar. So when I went to talk to Gary Keller in Austin in, I think it was December, right before Christmas of 97, Bell had died on the 8th. I just flew to say, okay, let me go figure out what I'm doing.
Yeah.
We sat down, we went to a bagel shop.
You and Gary Keller.
Yeah, we and Gary Keller. We did not talk real estate for 3 hours. We talked family, we talked principles, we talked changing the industry type of thing. It was not like, let me show you how much money you can make and all that.
Right.
That never really came up. It was back here, but it wasn't it was so impressive to me, so rooted, that I said, I don't know what this really is. I think it's going to be great. I want in.
Wow. Well, how could you not feel that after spending 3 hours with Gary Keller?
Yeah, well, Gary Keller's a great guy. He's a really great guy. And
I hear
he's really a visionary. He's an incredible dude. I'm looking forward to going and seeing him next week.
Great.
We're going to have a reunion of that 25-year handshake.
Oh, that's fantastic. Tell him you know a guy who wants to speak at family reunion someday.
I'll tell him all about you and why you should.
Yes, thank you, brother.
Adversity overcome.
Yes.
Right. So back to the story, as you asked me to explain it, it was just, we shook hands. I bought the Southeast region, not knowing exactly. I'd never been to Georgia.
Okay.
My mother was from a small town in Tennessee, and my kids had gone to school in Alabama, and that's exactly what I knew.
Right.
That's all I knew. But you know what? It was an adventure. It was a challenge.
I love it.
And
like I said, you don't suffer paralysis of analysis.
My back was against the wall.
Yeah, that's motivating.
It's like at 55, what do you do? You're going to either die or live.
That's right.
If you're going to live, you got to do something.
That's right.
So, okay.
Keep going.
So I said, you know what? Yeah,
keep going.
Keep going. Absolutely. I call it fly the plane.
Yes.
You just fly the plane.
That's right.
Bad weather, controls out, you just fly the plane.
That's right.
So he made me under his wise counsel, although my ego was bruised and I was fighting against this, to go back to New Orleans and open one of his offices. Well, I'd opened offices. I'd closed offices. I'd merged offices.
Sure.
I'd bought companies.
Do that in your sleep.
And I'm thinking, I got to do this all over again.
Yeah.
And he made a very good analogy, Glenn. He said, you have not done it the way we did it.
Mm.
And I said, well, yeah, no, but it's kind of the same. He says, Bob, here's what I want to say. If you're going to buy the trucking company, I suggest you drive the truck first.
Right.
And that hit me. I'm a Polish guy. I love logic and I love analogies. And I could not refute that. That made sense to me in a very odd way. So I went back to New Orleans and opened one of his offices and completely screwed it up. I mean,
good for you.
I ran Bob Kilinski Real Estate under a Keller Williams sign.
You had a McDonald's and you had your own recipes.
Oh, I didn't do the fries.
Right.
Okay. I used
wrong systems.
I used Mama's fries.
I know you're a systems guy.
So finally, about after a year, we were losing money, and he was coaching me every week, and he was very tolerant, but he was also letting me. And now I look back and say he was letting me fail so I would learn to pay attention.
Right.
Smart man.
Right.
So I remember saying, okay, I got this. And he just said one thing. He said, Bob, I want to ask you a question. He said, what? I said, what's that, Gary? Now keep in mind, I'm 15 years older than this guy, right?
Yeah.
But he owns the company. His name's on it. Mine's not.
Right.
And he said, are you ready to listen? I said, yeah, Gary, I'm ready to listen.
Oh, wow.
So he laid it out again.
Put your ego in your back pocket.
Oh, God. Crushed it on the ground.
Yeah. Right.
It fell out of the pocket.
Yeah.
So he laid it all out, and I went back and did that, and we immediately turned the situation around, got very profitable, extremely dominant in our market share and community in New Orleans, Metairie, where we were. And he said, okay, now if you want to go develop the Southeast region, you know now what not to do.
Mm.
I've always said you really learn when you fail at something and have to recover.
That's right.
It's easy to be successful and just kind of do things and do it your own way, but you never grow. You don't learn because
Right.
you keep doing what you did, which was working. So when it stops working, you have to stop and relearn. And the people that are, I've seen this many times, they hit that brick wall and they won't turn around. They keep trying to drive through the brick wall. And all it does is destroy their car.
Yeah.
And they want to know what went wrong. Well, what went wrong was that brick wall is not going to move.
No.
You have to move. You got to take a different direction, which I did, fortunately. Came to Atlanta, didn't know a soul here. Knew about real estate, knew about Keller Williams, knew not what to do. So thereby converse said, I think I know what to do. Fortunately, God again intervened and put me in touch with my now partner, Kay Evans,
Yes.
who not only knew the market, but the market knew her.
Ooh, that's powerful.
That's very powerful. Probably one of the only people that could have pulled this off the way it got pulled off on the planet.
Wow.
And she became my partner. So who's the
Good for
smartest
you.
guy here? Me.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I got in business with her.
Sure.
Okay?
The Henry Ford mentality.
Yeah.
That's
She
great.
may not have been the smartest, but I certainly was.
There
Okay.
you go.
Okay.
There you go.
And off we went. And we became and have still are the number one region, Keller Williams, worldwide.
You know, that's congratulations, but that's unbelievable to me. I would think, I was telling my wife this morning when I was talking about you being on the show today, I would have bet my life the number one region would be in California or the Northeast. How was it Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee
Well,
North Florida?
We got a little bit of a running head start with a very fresh new concept that worked and was changing the industry. And I will give credit to Kay and to the Atlanta market agents.
Okay.
They were business minded. Most agents across the country are not business minded. They're great agents.
Right.
They know how to service people, but they really don't know how to run a business.
Got it.
The people that Kay knew were emerging or already very senior talent. And the newer ones were willing to learn or already knew enough about business to take business and mix it with real estate. Remember the old epoxy glue?
Sure.
Put two tubes together, you make strong glue.
Right.
Okay.
1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah. Take the real estate service quotient, take the business mind, put them together. You got something pretty good.
That's a wonderful analogy.
And that's exactly what we did. And we did exactly opposite of what I did in New Orleans. Instead of me owning all of it, we formed what we call a core group of real estate business-minded, high-profile, market-driven agents that knew business and got them to be the ownership group of the office.
Wow.
And because they had skin in the game, they built it.
Wow.
And they were the type
Fantastic.
of people that other agents wanted to follow. So we never advertised a lick. You will never see, you've never seen
Dream come true.
Had no Atlanta Journal-Constitution, no ABC News, no Channel 5. All we did was put up yard signs and get the right people involved.
Wow.
If I always made the analogy, I said, how did you choose your doctor? Did you go to the hospital and find a doctor, or did you choose the doctor and then you found out what hospital he practiced at? And we did the latter. We found the agent who had the clients, regardless of their logo, and got them involved in changing the industry and bringing Keller Williams to the forefront.
Wow.
And we did it in such a manner that, truthfully, I had so many people say, did you guys buy RE/MAX? No, we didn't buy RE/MAX. RE/MAX was the king of Atlanta when I came here. Very good company. I give them a lot of credit for changing the industry.
Absolutely.
But they didn't follow their own model, and the people that were emerging did not have chance for equity and or, say, career path opportunities. And we offered that. And that's the reason we succeeded so quickly. Wow. Had RE/MAX reacted to that, they probably would have slowed us down tremendously because they were a very good name and very quality people.
Yeah, I have massive respect for Dave Leniger. I interviewed him in my book, Stand in the Heat, along with Mo Anderson. Incredible entrepreneur, incredible story.
Had a vision.
Yeah, phenomenal vision. He focused on the agent as opposed to selling a house. So he was early on in that shift.
Right.
So in what year did you open the Southeast region, and what was your first market center?
First market, Kay and I became partners October 1, 1999.
Okay.
I've been traveling back and forth and commuting from New Orleans. In January 25th of 2000, right after the millennium, we opened our first office, grand opening at Sandy Springs.
Okay.
On Glenridge Parkway.
Sure.
Okay.
Know it well.
And the good news happened in that office, a bunch of things. First of all, we put our name on the map.
Mm-hmm.
And that night, I met, through Kay's help, my now wife.
Oh, wow.
Linda Cook.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big night for Bob.
Big night for Bob.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I got recognition and I got a phone number.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You closer.
Give me something to work with. Okay.
Yes. That's great. That's great.
And we're living here in East Cobb happily. We have 5 kids together, 14 grandchildren, and
Wow.
living,
Nice team. Nice
living,
downline.
living the life.
That
We're
is-
living the life.
Oh, good for you. That is beautiful. And I can't tell you how endearing it is to me to hear that you were broke at 30, broke at 41, and basically broke again at 55 because
I was broken at 55.
okay, right.
I was near broke, but I was broken.
Got it.
In 40, I was
can-
not just broke. I was so far in debt, I couldn't see the bottom of the well.
Yeah.
And that was like, I don't know what I'm going to do to get this out of this.
Yeah.
It's like a Chinese trap. The more you pull, the worse it
Sure,
gets.
sure.
But fortunately, Tom Hannon, who's now deceased, my partner and I, had learned the hard way when we were kids. If you're going to get it done, you got to do it yourself. You put one foot in front of the other.
Mhm.
You don't listen to negative people.
Mhm.
You believe it can be done.
Yes.
And then if it's not done, it's not because you didn't try. It's because it just couldn't get done.
Wow.
But if you stop, it is done.
It is done. That's right.
Yeah.
That
I
is-
always say to my kids, I laugh. I said, every question you don't ask, the answer is no.
I love it. I love it.
100% of the time.
I love it. They're exactly right.
Right. And I also believe I didn't fail. It failed.
Okay.
I just happened to be in it when it failed.
That way you don't take on the failure personally. You don't identify with that label.
I may have made bad decisions. I may have not handled things right, but I don't believe I failed because, first of all, the project didn't work well, but boy, did I learn something.
Yes.
And as long as I was still alive and able to put one foot in front of the other, look out.
Well, I love the saying, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn.
Yeah, right.
You never
right.
lose, you learn.
Yeah, right.
So-
Failing forward.
Failing forward and do it fast. So shifting gears, a couple months ago, you and I run a Zoom call with my good friend Darren Hunter. He runs the Mortgage Right branch in Woodstock. And you said 2 things. You told us 2 stories that just dinged me, tattooed me. And I want to talk about those real quickly here before we wrap up. The first story is that you, and this took guts, Bob, you sent a survey to certain leaders in your region, in the Southeast
we
region.
did a survey to all our leaders at 3 different levels.
Okay. But you wanted to find out what's your opinion of Bob Kilinski. And I think you got some feedback that deeply impacted you at your core.
Oh, it did. I wanted the feedback, but I thought it was going to come back fan mail.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. Why wouldn't it? But somebody dinged you.
A lot of it did come back as fan mail, which was kind of neat. But I'll never forget one middle management person, unknown to me, somewhere in our region, made the statement because the surveyor put down all the raw statements that came back on the comments. And it went like this. He said, Bob is one of the smartest guys I've ever known. That was good. And she followed up with, but he takes time to ask a question, but he never stays around long enough to hear the answer.
Yee.
And whoa, that got me.
That
really hit me between the eyes.
Yeah, that'll stop you in your tracks.
Yeah, I said, what do I really look to people?
Yeah.
How do I really come across? Better than them? Don't care about them? These are people that are putting their daily professional life on the line to make my life better. Yeah. Changed myself immediately.
Of course. Of course. So what did
I may not be perfect at it, but boy, do I listen a lot more.
Wow.
Not necessarily because they have all the right answers, but it's their answers and they feel very tied to them and it makes them feel good or bad depending on my reaction.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make people feel bad.
No. Well, I commend you for sending that survey out, but being open enough to take that, because I can see the tears in your eyes right now.
Yep.
Being able to take that like a man, because that's adversity, and adjust and make the character adjustment in yourself to change who you are, how you're perceived by others, especially your team who's putting food on your table.
Let's say I hope I've changed as much as I think I have.
Yeah.
You don't always reflect in the mirror the way you look in the mirror and see things better than they really are.
Yeah.
So I'm just hoping that I'm more percentage of that than I used to be.
I'm sure you are. Well, I'm glad you shared that. That's been very powerful.
Oh, it was a knock.
Yeah, I know. That was a Mike Tyson punch to the face.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
To the gut.
Yeah, to the gut.
To the gut.
So, second story you told Darren and I, and I'm going to do this. I'm looking in your eye and I'm going to commit to this. You said that you had a business coach or a life coach in Hawaii. And he said, Bob, I want you to go in your backyard. I want you to light a fire. Eric. And I want you to sit there with no technology, no phone, nothing, no clock, no watch. Your wife can tell you what time it is. And I want you to stare into that fire
3 hours.
for 3 hours and figure out who you are. And I think that's brilliant.
It was brilliant. I thought it was absolutely wasting of time.
Going into it, that's what you thought?
Oh, absolutely. I said, Eric, I'm going to do it because you're my coach and I'm paying you. So therefore I'm going to go do what you say. But good Lord, what am I going to do? I said, I'm going to stare into a fire and just stare into fire. He says, yeah, you're going to stare into fire.
Yeah.
I said, okay. I said, I'll give you my commitment. I'll do it. So I did. I piled up all the wood I could find. I'd put it into a fire pit in my backyard, which was sort of, a Polish fire pit.
Yeah.
And you Polish people out there, that's not a cut. That's just, I am one of you.
Yes,
okay.
Sure.
And we're supposed to not be that smart, but we really are.
Yes.
Okay.
I love it.
And I sat there with the fire and he asked me on the next session, well, what'd you learn? I said, well, I learned I know this is fire is hot. Okay. Fire is bright. It gets me very nervous not knowing what time it is. And I didn't want to sit there any longer than 3 hours because I committed 3 hours. But if I went 3 hours and 2 minutes, I was going to get out of there if I could. But since I didn't know the time, I had to wait for the whistle to blow.
Mm-hmm.
And then about 4 or 5 weeks later, we talked about it again. He says, have you been thinking more about the fire? I said, Eric, I can't say the fire has done anything, but somehow I spend more time now listening to my inner thoughts than I used to. I'm going to give you credit for it because I don't know where it came from. So I'm going to blame it on the fire. And he started laughing. He said, you have no idea the different reactions I get from people. Some people still go out weekly and look into the fire because it's where they find their peace.
Wow.
Long and behold, I'm playing tennis with my friends one night. I tell him about the fire. He says, oh, I do that every Saturday night. Every Saturday night, I build a fire and just go out there and watch it. I said, Jimmy, why do you do that? He says, A, I get away from the noise of the household. B, it's very relaxing.
Yes.
And 3, I have time to think about me and the big things. It's almost like meditation.
Sure it is. It's exactly what it is.
Be able to listen to myself and listen to things, even in the woods, that I don't hear on the basis because it's like a clear sky. We see the sky when you see the stars. You didn't realize stars were up there until the sky was clear.
Sure.
When you go off in the country.
Right.
He said, it's an opening of my heart, an opening of my mind, and more importantly, it's an opening to my soul. Wow. I said, well, I'm going to try it again, but it makes me very nervous. Wow. And I've only done 2 fires since.
Wow. But I think it's an incredibly powerful idea and experience for those who will
I'm
do
sure
it.
it works differently for different people.
Yeah.
I mean, it was something I would never think of, excuse me, on my own. But Eric is one of those coaches that it's not about getting better at your work. It's not about getting better at sport. It's getting better at who you are.
Yes.
Excuse me. One drink.
Sure. Well,
good old Coca-Cola.
Absolutely. Love that story. So on a lighter note, you mentioned tennis. You are now 80 years old, which boggles my mind. You look like, to me, that 80 is the new 60. You look incredible. You want to
very expensive tan works.
There you go. Yeah. That and 64 ounces of carrot juice every day.
Yeah, right.
But so you aspire to be an 80-year-old doubles tennis champion. That's right. Is that correct?
I would like to be go to the city finals as my doubles team and win for my age group.
Wow.
And I'm thinking I want to do this at least before I'm 83.
That is phenomenal.
So I play 3 sets of tennis on Monday night. I now play 3 sets of tennis on Thursday night. I have a coach on Tuesday and Thursday to get my game up to where I can be very good, because I was at one time, but I've lost it over the years. And I want to be able to play and beat 60-year-olds night and day.
Good for you.
But it takes work.
Yes.
It takes discipline.
Yes.
But it's a goal. And I also know if you don't have a goal, something to look forward to, you really deteriorate.
Yes.
All right. The other thing I didn't mention is my wife and I met and still love to dance. And we dance a lot. We just got back from an island in the Caribbean where we go to various parties, and we're known as the party starters.
Okay.
We'll get up dance to somebody dropping their fork.
Good reputation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love it.
And the saying that I've heard that I truly believe is you do not stop dancing because you get old. You get old because you stop dancing.
That's great. That is great.
So I won't get old by stop dancing.
I love it.
I want to be 90 years old. I want to still be making love to my wife. I still want to be playing tennis, and I still want to be able to dance.
That's fantastic.
And then after that, it's potluck because I'm on lanyap.
Yeah.
Lanyap is a Louisiana term for a baker's dozen.
Okay. That is a beautiful vision for your life. I love it.
Yeah, and watching my grandkids grow up and being successful.
What else is there? What else is there? Your comments just now remind me of Clint Eastwood. He's early 90s, and he says every morning.
He's 94.
Oh, wow.
He says, I don't let the old man in.
Exactly.
He said, "Wait, how do you stay young?" He says, I don't let the old man in.
I love it.
Right.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Well, Bob, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I want to wrap up because God knows you've been through your adversity and you've moved through it and found the opportunity. What, for our viewers, people watching, what is your advice to anybody going through any level of personal or professional adversity? What's the Bob Kilinski mindset that helps you deal with adversity and become a champion from it?
Number one is everything is temporary. Nothing is permanent.
Okay.
And my partner, I'll give credit for this. She says, nothing hurts you for very long. Nothing really helps you for very long. So you're living through it. You're not living in it.
Yes.
So how do you get through it? Well, you have to look on the other side of it. No matter how dark and deep it looks, you're going to say, okay, what is the silver lining? What do I need to do? Maybe I'll work, maybe it won't work, but what can I do so it won't be my fault if it doesn't?
Yes.
And then learn from other people. Talk to other people who've been through things. There is so much wisdom among people who've had experiences.
Yes.
You don't have to live them all to get all the wisdom. Now, you really get the wisdom when you're in it.
Yes.
Because it's you. Like my wife died. Yeah, a lot of people say, I'm sorry. I said, I know you're sorry. But until your wife dies or your husband dies, you really don't know what that is.
Can't really relate.
And a lot of people have children that have died, and somebody says, oh, I'm so sorry you lost your child. I can imagine how it feels. No, you can't unless you've been there. So take it to heart. It's happening to you for a reason. And I'm not a really religious guy, but I do believe that there is a higher power.
Amen, brother.
Sorry about this, Glenn.
No, this is good.
And that you got to listen
Yes.
to what you're being prepared for.
Yes. Yes.
If you can do that, even if you don't make it, you didn't fail.
That's right. That's right. Wow. Well, thank you. Incredible.
Always pleasure.
Incredible wisdom.
Thank you so much. Thank
from
you.
my older brother. I consider you an older brother, Bob.
Not that much older.
Yeah. Yeah.
My driver's license says 80, by the way. I don't.
You're 60.
Yeah. I'm somewhere around there.
I love it. I love it. Well,
take care. And I hope the people listening, it's not about Bob Kilinski. This is not about Bob. It's about what Bob has experienced that he could pass on.
Yes. Well, thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, another fantastic conversation with an incredible man, first and foremost, an incredible human being, and an incredible leader. Hope you enjoyed. And if any of this resonated with you or had an impact on you, please share. We'd be honored if you liked this podcast and shared it and subscribed and shared it with your friends and family. Glenn Carver coming to you from the podcast studio at Mesmerize Media in North Atlanta. Have a fantastic day.